This episode is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to This Week in MMO, episode 176 for January 31st, 2014. We're going to talk Elder Scrolls Online, Everquest Landmark, maybe some other stuff, maybe not. See how we feel. Joining us, Mr. Mike Byrne. How are you, sir?
I'm well, sir. I'm well. We can talk about whatever. I'm game. Let's do
Whatever.
it.
Let's talk about whatever. And
whatever.
Joining us as well, Mr. Jason Winter.
Yeah, I'd like to say that today I wore this SOE fanfare shirt in honor of the Landmark beta starting up, or alpha rather.
So that's the big news.
But in reality, it was laundry day and this was clean and kind of on the floor, so I was like, hell with it. Just threw
There
it
you
out.
go. He's with you, SOE, today. So today not only marks the alpha, which I got to say, Mr. Byrne, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, last night on Gamebreaker. Go watch that show. That was cool. Like 7 Eastern, I sent it to Q, said, here's a prediction. And then Gamebreaker said, all right, I'm going to tell you the guys the prediction on the show. And then, yeah, so it was pretty nice. Pretty cool.
Wait. They said it was going to be by the end of January, and you predicted last night
Well,
that it would be today?
the only one that ever said the end of January was Smedley. And in
Oh,
fact,
just
during
that
their
guy.
live
Nobody
stream,
important. Nobody important.
during their live stream mid-January, they made it seem like they were totally ignoring that timeline. So, no, I mean, I admit it wasn't a ridiculous, incredible prediction, but it was one that as soon as Smed started acting up last night, we're like, okay, it's tomorrow. We're going to get
And it
to play.
coincides with they're having an event right now down at the SOE studios, which is, I guess they're near like San Diego or something. I should know that. I haven't been down there. So they're near that area, but they have like an open invitation. I guess if you signed up, there's a lot of fans down there getting to play EverQuest Landmark for the first time today. So they dropped the bomb that alpha starts today. I assume they're waiting till tonight once all of the people who trekked out in this 80-degree weather here in Southern California to go play it in person.
I mean, the ones that
give them a
brave
shot
the
first.
elements.
Rest of America is freezing to death. Gary's trying to figure out how to turn on the AC.
Right.
Hey,
The
sorry,
ones
the
that
polar
brave
vortex
the
up in
elements.
this piece.
Well, you're wearing a sweater. What do you expect?
I know it's rude, but it's rude. There's like, I don't know what's going on here today. But what can we expect from the Landmark Alpha? Which I gotta say, we're a really quick side note. An interesting tidbit to this, which I am completely floored by, was after the announcement that Alpha would be starting today. I believe it was Smedley who tweeted this, if not officially SOE, but I believe it was Smedley tweeted, put out the statement that if anyone who has ordered their alpha, if you've ordered a pack and you are unhappy with the alpha, they're going to refund your money.
Yep, I actually went back and forth on Twitter with Smedley about this when he made the comment, asking, saying, if you're unhappy, we'll give you a refund. And I said, well, that's wow. You just got to show confidence in the product. His reply was that it doesn't necessarily show confidence in the product, although they are, of course, confident in Landmark.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows more that they don't know what to expect on some ends, this being an alpha and an alpha not quite being for everybody.
Sure.
We kind of get an idea of what we know we're going to expect at an alpha, bugs and glitches, and maybe some lower performances. But maybe some people aren't quite hip to that crazy alpha jive, and maybe this isn't for them and it doesn't quite work out. He said, we want to make sure that those people are taken care of. He said, what happens if we put this up and all of a sudden everybody in the EU has such terrible lag with the servers that it's unplayable? We want to make sure that those people are safe. And I told him, I thought it was a classy decision.
It really
classy
is. I mean,
decision.
we've seen like pre-orders and alpha, games that people are charging for. We've seen developers get more and more sort of vocal about making sure that people understand that, hey, this is an alpha. Thinking about things like DayZ and stuff, where Dean was just like, hey, don't buy this game
Right.
if you expect this to really work, because it's an alpha. So they've been really vocal about trying to almost steer people away, or at least be really cautious with understanding what you're purchasing here. But I got to say, going the next step and actually offering refunds. I mean, I just say it. I mean, if you are even remotely interested in Landmark, you have really no risk. Just order. I mean, unless you don't have
besides waiting a couple of days for a refund, if it comes to that.
You might as well just order. You might as well order and get it on now and see what the hype's all about, right?
Here's the deal too. If the packs are still available, they have not announced a date when the 2-tier packs that get you alpha access, which are $60 and $100. They haven't announced a day when they'll go away. They did make an announcement. Georgeson said that if you buy it today, you will still get alpha access today, but you'll have to go to the alpha forums to read how to get the access, because buying it today won't trigger the email that they're going to be sending out to come to you. So if you put down your cash today and you want to get in today, when you see Twitter saying everything's live, you'll have to go and visit the alpha forums. Everybody else that has already bought it prior to today, you'll get an email letting you know, here's your directions and your links and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is great because we always talk about how, like you said, when a game comes out in alpha or beta or early access, even on Kickstarter, with all this kind of notion of, well, or at least some people do, it's like, well, you're going to give the developer your money and then he can just run away with it, make a crappy game or whatever. But he's got your money, so what does he care? And it's great that they're showing that's clearly not the case here. They want your money, sure, but they know that if it's not the product you want, they'll give it back to you. Now, the one scenario that I can just envision, though.
Yeah, you replied on Twitter about this one.
I could just imagine somebody's going to get their refund because they didn't like it or whatever. And then, like, 6 months later, after the game is fully out and ready to go, or like the day after it releases or whatever, of course, because it was an alpha and it sucked or whatever, but now they see that it's really good, they're going to go back to customer service and go, but I have the alpha package, and I paid my $100 for it. I got it back, but I still want all the stuff. Can I get that? Can I?
Go fly a kite.
Yeah, exactly.
Really. Yeah, I don't know,
but it's going to happen. It's guaranteed going to happen.
People in the chat room, I was actually watching, somebody's asking, like, what is alpha? Like, alpha is pre-beta, so meaning that you are going to experience bugs. You are going to have probably times of servers being completely offline. You are going, like, this is not a release of the game. Right. You are getting in super early. The stages of you are usually are like internal alpha. We've just started seeing alphas even be public. They used to never be public before. It was like always alphas.
Yeah, they kind of hide them under the friends and family tag now.
Then the game goes into beta, which is usually like, systems are a little bit more in place. There's a little bit more stability. And then, then they go to an open beta and they try and crash the servers with a lot of people. And then it hits the shelves and people buy it. This is really early on. So, I mean, a word of warning, you've got no risk if you want to try it, but you should know what you're getting into and what you're buying. Yeah. And if you're getting into this, expect this thing to crash. Expect there to be bugs. Expect things not to work. Expect you to be confused by things. Expect the servers to go down. Like, expect everything to go wrong. That is what an alpha is for. They are testing the game and coding and building as you
testing basic structures of the game even more so.
This
so it's
alpha
not even just numerical balance or anything like that. Yeah.
Right, and this alpha is a little bit unique in its own right too, because you're pretty much part of the development team on this one. This is, to give you an idea, they usually develop a game, let's say, for a year. Then they're going to put it in alpha for 3 months, beta for a couple of months, and then release. Well, when you get to that first alpha, usually the game is done in its core form. Now let's start putting the polish and finishing touches on it. In alpha, we'll fix any last bugs, we'll throw it to beta, we'll launch it. This is technically even before that, where the game is still kind of a shell. We're not going to have combat initially. We're not going to have all the crafting stuff that's going to be in the game initially. It's a shell of the Landmark game. And you're going to be playing with the developers. And you're going to have the ability to fill out what they called like sticky notes and literally leave a Post-it note on the UI of a developer that's responsible for particle effects or responsible for this or responsible for this, so that you're actually part of the development team. And in their last live stream, a lot of the final decisions for core gameplay, even as things as core as your claim size, are still up in the air and will be decided by the people that participate in this alpha. So even alpha is a bit generous. It's a step before that if you were looking at most typical
Don't
developers.
say pre-alpha. Don't say pre-alpha.
Yeah, they're going to be looking at so much data here for this is break the game, data collection, all that good stuff. Yeah. And as somebody else mentioned in chat as well, things like system specs and stuff like that are very high right now. And that's because the game's not even close to being optimized. I mean, they have to go through all kinds of coding, optimization for release. That is not even close. So specs are going to be quite high. Expect frame rates to get choppy. Like expect all. So if you really don't have if you're not looking for that experience to be first in there, to see what it's all about, to be able to deal with these bugs and these crashes, it's probably not for you, and you want to steer clear away from it and just kind of wait for a release. But that being said, I think a lot of MMO players in general are tinkerers. They like to get under the hood. They like to see things early, like all of us. And I gotta say, this is great. I mean, you got no risk. So if tonight you get the email, you get into this alpha, and if it just like does not float your boat, well, they're gonna give you your money back. So that's good by them. I gotta say, good by them. It does. I think it
really,
shows
really let it go a couple of days before you send back your money. Don't log in, hate the first half hour, and go, screw it, I want a refund. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we have to anticipate. Well, you have to think that tonight, when these emails do go out, all the mandatory things that can go wrong with an MMO are going to go wrong. The login server is going to crash, and the world servers are going to crash. There's going to be no NPCs.
It's going to be like Final Fantasy XIV all over again.
It's going to be all over again, and people are going to be like, "I paid for this. I should be playing this." No. You paid for this, but yes, you paid to get frustrated, probably hit F5 for a while, probably get booted a couple times. Yeah, that's what you're paying for. So,
ironically, this is probably the last TWIMMO episode where you'll actually have landmark information for quite a while now, right? Because as soon as this does go live, it's all NDA.
It's all NDA, which is which is slightly a bummer, right? Because I think Jason, have you pre-ordered?
No, I haven't. So I can still talk about it freely.
Burn and I have. I know that. Yeah. So I mean, I want to play.
Well, actually, I might be acquiring access somehow.
So there you go. But I would say, unfortunately, hopefully, maybe we can get SOE to let us talk about it a little bit here and there, and kind of just we'll see. I don't know how they're gonna feel about that, but I'd love to start talking about it. So that's the big news. So look at your inboxes, and like you said, if you go buy our Founders Pack today, if you're watching this, check the forms. And also they said I think you would receive an email, but it probably wouldn't be till the following day. They said the emails go if you bought it today. What triggers the emails is probably gonna be the next day. So just pay attention to that. So looking forward to it. It's gonna be interesting to see. All right, next up this week, the big news. A little game called Elder Scrolls Online. We've been talking about it just a little bit here on the Game Breaker TV.
Yes, that other one. I forgot all about it for today.
So a few days ago, the Imperial edition, which is basically what they're calling their collector's edition, got leaked, and that hit the internets. So that is now out in the world. Today we actually got a look. I'll start playing. We got an unboxing video from the team here. You get to see everything that's in there, the statue, the book, all that kind of stuff. They talk about all the digital goodies. So looks like a great collector's edition. I'm definitely getting the Imperial edition, physical edition. Didn't go a big box. Looks very big.
Is that Lauren Schick, their lore master?
I
guess they got to throw him a bone somehow.
It looked like it was the size of his torso.
It does. It looks gigantic. I mean, look how it opens.
Look at that. Damn.
I'm just saying they got to give the lore master guy something to do because he really doesn't have much to do now. So.
Right. Yeah. Go stand in front of this green screen and open this Elder Scrolls crate.
We don't need you making up lore anymore because we're just gonna whatever.
So it comes with a bunch of digital
to pick mine up.
It is. It does. You need like a hand truck to bring this thing home. Statue, some physical items, all kinds of digital items. This did not go without a bit of controversy, of course. A little bit of drama surrounding the Elder Scrolls Online. One of the items in the Imperial Edition is a class, and this has some people a little bit upset. They're a little bit upset at the fact that there is a class being held behind buying the collector's edition.
Race.
Oh, it's a race. Sorry, race. Yeah. Being held behind a collector's edition. I don't know, Bern, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, we kind of like glazed through this yesterday on Game Breaker in anticipation of talking about it today. I personally don't have too much of a problem with it because I bought the collector's set anyway. And I told you I looked at it as if I get the story that I expect out of Elder Scrolls games out of it, then that initial purchase is worth it to me. The class, or the race edition, the Imperial race edition, while I personally don't have a problem with it, I can definitely see the legitimacy of the argument for others that do, particularly because we still don't have final word on, is this race available in-game through a purchase of its own? Is this race available in-game through another method that does not involve cash? We don't know the for sures on that yet. And yes, I've seen pictures of different chats and things that allude to the fact that you can probably buy this race via a microtransaction or maybe even obtain it in-game without a microtransaction. But we just don't know for sure yet. So I can see people being a little bit upset that it looks like, at least at this exact moment, there is a race trapped behind a paywall that, while it doesn't have any unbalancing abilities, is one that we didn't expect and a lot of people want, and now they have to pay for it. I can see why they're upset there. The one that bothers me more than that, though, Gary, is that we are, and again, I'm complaining about something I already bought, but we are getting a token that allows us to take any race and join any other alliance rather than the one that we're designating. I can understand that causing a lot more stir than the Imperial race itself, because we
that one, and it seems to be that one is not getting as much attention as the other. Yeah. But I can understand, especially from a lore and a faction standpoint. It's like you have the token, you can just do whatever you want. Yeah, I guess where this really stems from, though, especially for a lot of for a lot of MMO players who are used to subscription-based models, and playing them for years, you're completely used to this separation between the subscription model and the free-to-play model, one having a cash shop and putting things like this in there and being completely okay because there's no subscription model, and then you've got the other side of the fence where people are paying $15 a month and they feel like something like a race should not be put behind any kind of a paywall. That should be included in my subscription fee. I don't know.
Well, especially when Elder Scrolls has made the statement before that, there's not going to be anything blocked that a subscriber can't get. A subscriber, what was the phrase, Jason? I think it was a subscriber will get access to all content.
We think that everything, should be available. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And that was when they were discussing that, yes, we're still considering a microtransaction store or everything, but a subscriber is not going to be blocked to content. Well, at the moment, they haven't said anything else yet, so at the moment, yes, they are. And the race, being able to take any race and put it into any alliance directly contradicts something they previously said before, too, which was they had the 3 races per alliance for specific reasons.
It's very important we have these 3 factions.
Very important. One was lore, the way they were telling the whole story. One was lore, and then one was balancing. They didn't want one alliance ending up with huge population and the other 2 being brought down. And now they've put in a feature that if you give us a little bit extra for the collector set, we'll let you totally break that idea that we put in place. So I could definitely understand the arguments. To me, it really doesn't matter, though. I mean, you were going to be able to take a race and go play the other 2 alliances' story once you finished yours anyway, if you really wanted to see it. So, okay, fine. Let me go be one of those alliances to start off with. Okay, but I can definitely understand people.
It's not going to break the game in any way, shape, or form.
It isn't, but it is a little bit of, let's say one thing, and then when it comes to putting a price tag on it, let's do another.
Yeah, and some of it, too, just to clarify, some of this is not connected to the collector edition, the Imperial.
Right.
Some of it is just pre-order.
Pre-order.
You'll pay the same price.
Race.
But still, if you buy on day 2, you won't be able to get, I forget which one it is, the race or the faction break.
It's the race being able to, any race being able to go to another alliance.
That's okay. And I get, it's not so much the selling some of these, having the race is a separate thing. It doesn't bother me that much because, there are 9 races, it's just a 10th. It reminds me a little of, Neverwinter had that, I think, with like the Menza, Brands, and Drought. You'd have to pre-order or do pay some extra transaction for that. Granted, that was a free-to-play game, so people might have thought, okay, fine, you got to do it for that. The issue I have is more with, like you said, the lore especially, and to some extent the race, because we always were told there aren't going to be, you can't play an Imperial. There are these 9 races. These are the ones you can play. We were also told you can't be a werewolf, you can't be a vampire. There's no first person. We were told all of those, and they've gone back on all of those now to put it in. Now, on some level, you can say, okay, it's great that they listened to the feedback and heard what people were saying. They didn't like this, so we're going to change it. Okay, but this seems like we know we made a mistake with having not people. People clearly say they want to be able to play in whatever faction with whatever race. We made a mistake. Instead of just fixing it, we're going to charge you to fix it, and that's the part that really, I guess, ticks me off a little bit, and probably ticks a lot of people off as well. And if they're going back on this, they're going back on all these other different things. How can I believe in the notion that we need a subscription? We have to sell a box of a subscription. That is the only way we can make this game work. That's it. We can't change that until we do. So it's like I don't believe them a whole lot anymore.
And as Otter went back and got the quote that I was referencing but couldn't quite remember the way it was phrased in my head. Thank you, as Otter. It was from Matt Furor, who said, "We don't want the player to worry about which parts of the game to pay for. With our system, they'll get it all," referencing the subscription.
That's what it is, yep.
Not so at the moment. So
yeah,
that's the only part that concerns me. I'm okay with these decisions, though talking about one thing and doing another doesn't set a good trend for things going forward, although I don't happen to have huge problems with these particular examples.
And you're right what you say in chat, is the population of alliance was the point they previously made. But it seems like all this stuff, all the points I brought up and that as well, seems like things that were just designed, developed almost in a vacuum, like up to a certain point. Someone decided this is how it's going to be. It's got to be this way. This is my artistic vision or whatever. Got to have 3 factions. Got to have this. Got to have that. And then it comes out, or the information came out about 2 years ago, and suddenly they realize that everyone didn't like everything they had in mind. So they're almost like having to scramble to try to fix some of it. And you just wonder about what the process was that led them to these decisions in the first place.
Yeah, but you're inferring a lot there by saying scrambling and fixing, and like you're using a lot of words that are like totally. I mean, what if it's the fact that, like, realizing that people want to play, how they want to play.
Maybe they should have asked people that before they released.
Oh, come on, Jason! These games take like almost 10 years to make. Things can change.
Not that long.
They take like this game. This game in particular has been in development for close to 10 years. This game has been in development so much longer than when you ever heard about it.
Not that long.
It was
not to the point that it couldn't be changed.
So from what I'm hearing, I could be wrong. From what I've heard, this game was started development about 4 to 5 years before we ever heard a peep about it.
I would probably agree that that's accurate, or at
that
least
could be true. But I'm saying that
and things like that.
At that point, you can decide we'd rather go from 3 factions to 2 or none. Six years ago, they could have changed that in the little initial design document. Whatever.
Can I ask you something, Gary? You're gonna get the $100 physical one?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I pre-purchased mine 2 or 3 days ago, the day they announced it. Speaking of that, I still haven't gotten my code yet. Mental note. Anyway, let me ask you this. Set aside for a minute the controversy part of this, whether they said one thing and are slightly doing another or not.
I don't care.
Just
go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like this is 0.001% of the population really cares about this, but go ahead.
Just look at the box and what comes in it digitally and physically. And where does this rank as far as how cool collector sets were? Because I really love the idea that they did put items like a specific race in the collector set. There's huge incentive to buy that.
I thought it was going to be more than it's $99.95 here in the States, and I thought it was going to be more than that. Yeah. When I saw it at first, I really thought it was going to be $150.
But I think the digital version for only $80 will also get you the race. Just doesn't have all the cool physical.
When we saw the leak the night before, my bet was $150, so it came in $50 under. I saw the statue, all the items that are coming in it. I actually think it's a great value.
I think it's a great collector set, and I like the idea of having something a little more meaty than just a mount or a cosmetic pet. I like the idea of a race or something really enticing to Elder Scrolls fans. Now, yes, you said something and you're doing something a little different. Please fix that. But standing it by itself, it's a badass collector's set. I'm sorry.
But has any other collector set failed to sell because it didn't have that stuff? I mean, I look at the Guild Wars 2 collector set, the SWTOR collector set, all of which were more expensive, had the big statue or whatever and other doohickeys. Those seem like they still did pretty well. I mean,
I'm sure they did. I'm not saying this is going to sell better or worse than those. I'm just saying, looking at it, I like this collector set an awful lot when I compare it to other ones I've bought, and I've bought many.
Yeah, as far as like if you're just looking at it from a standpoint of like what comes in the box, like Blizzard, I think Blizzard does a nice setup. I feel like they could revamp it at some point. They've got like it's a standard setup. Like they don't even have to think about what's going in their collector's edition. It's the same thing every single time. And it's a good box. I kind of wish they would change it up once in a while, but this is, with the added addition of the statue and stuff like that, which looks like it's really well made. It looks like it's a really...
Speaking of which, I saw a great comment on an article that said, what they should have done, Blizzard should have done for Pandaria. You only get to play a Pandaren if you pre-order or buy the collector's edition. If you buy it later, you don't get to play a Pandaren.
Maybe they'll do that next time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can understand why some people are a little bit miffed about it, but like you said, we don't know once you get into game if any of these things are unlockable or purchasable, or there's been nothing said about that.
Well, it will be. they will get more money out of it. I assure you that.
I don't know why I don't have a problem with it. I think a very small part of the population really cares about this. I think
which we wouldn't if they weren't telling us for years, hey, $15 a month, that's all you'll need.
Yeah, but do you realize that you and probably 15 other people in the world have paid attention to what they've said for the past 5 years? Like, no one pays attention to this stuff like you do.
That is true. You're not altogether wrong there.
So they're upsetting basically almost no one. Not to discount the people who are all pissed off, because I'm sure you're in our chat room. Mm-hmm. But to them, when they're looking at the big picture of how many they're selling, you're no one. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah,
it's
going to sell millions, I don't doubt.
Doesn't matter.
But that's what they said about SWTOR too. And then after a few months, So
well, it's gonna sell. It's we still like I'm still optimistic about it, but I really still we talked about this on Game Breaker last night. And I said, you know what, I am okay with playing MMOs to the point of leveling up the experience, playing through the story and things like that. And you know what, if I'm not really feeling it, or the end game's not great, or like I'm not a huge raider anyway. Usually it's PvP, but even if I'm okay with paying $60 or $100 for this game, even if I got 3 months out of the game and I put it back on the shelf and I decide it's not for me, I'm not like that angry about it.
Yeah, you got the single player experience that you were going to get out of Elder Scrolls 6 for spending $60 to $100 for it anyway.
But I know a lot of players are, the big thing with ESO right now is like, well, what's the end game going to be like? What's the PvP going to be like? What's the adventure zones? We haven't seen anything on adventure zones. And I agree, we haven't. We don't know what that's going to be like. So we hope. We got to see some Adventure Zone stuff before the launch, though, right? They've got to start showing this. They've got to start showing PvP.
And that's one thing that does concern me, is that the NDA is still up. I mean, we're 2 months and a couple days from launch, and we're all going to get, with the pre-order that we're doing, 5 early days. So we are now less than 2 months away from official launch. So it is a little concerning that we haven't seen that, and that the NDA is still in place. I can't imagine it's going to be for much longer. Otherwise, it's really going to start to raise flags, don't you think? It's already kind of sending off a couple bells in my head. No huge flags yet, but it's like,
but again, does the average consumer care? Like, is the average consumer even aware, like, even thinks about what an NDA is? No.
Yeah, but the average consumer wants to see stuff about the game, and that's not even there for them to see yet.
Why was there that much of a Skyrim ramp up? Were you waiting for like end game Skyrim videos to hit the internet? No.
Gameplay videos of Skyrim? Hell yeah! The first time I saw that in Game Informer about a year before it came out, I watched every video they had that they put out on that.
Sure, but I'm saying you weren't sitting there going like, if I don't see Endgame Skyrim videos, I'm not buying this game.
Not. Well, not Endgame, of course not, because I'm not looking for that in a single player game. I'm looking for other things when I want to see the hype on a single player game. Endgame happens to be part of the hype I want to see in an MMO lead up. What if
they just don't? What if they just don't pull the NDA? What if they just leave it right up until the very end? It just launches.
Ooh.
Why is it so weird? Why? Why? That doesn't happen with. That didn't happen with any. That doesn't happen with single player games. They don't release. They don't like lift NDAs on single player console games before they launch. They just launch.
That's because they don't have massive playtests with thousands of people doing them. That's part of why you don't, because it's easier to do it.
I can't imagine them riding NDA to launch. Really?
I'm just saying.
We talked about Final Fantasy XIV leading up to its launch and how long it hung on to the NDA, and even they dropped it about a month, 3 weeks to a month ahead of launch. And we had accused them of holding on to it way too long too. Here we are, less than 2 months from officially being able to hit early access, and we've seen one group developer PvE video and NDA on everything else.
Two.
Well, I'm just saying
the other one really
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. I don't know why. I could just and I don't think it would hurt them at all. I don't know how much they would benefit by lifting it as opposed to just launching with it.
And that's what concerns me. Are they concerned that if they lift it, they're going to get crushed? Is that what they're worried about? And if so, why are they worried about it to that extent?
I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying.
It's not, like I said, it's not throwing flags yet. It's just like a chiming in the back of my head that says, this has really got to go away soon, right? Right? Right?
I guess if it wasn't for the IP and where it's coming from, I would say right. But I guess for some reason, I'm like, if where it comes from and it's in its console and PC lineage, just I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they just don't ever drop an NDA. They leave it up the entire time the game just launches, and there we go. And they they can release what they want to release as far as videos go, and we start seeing some PvP and that sort of thing. But nobody can really talk about it and chatter about it. I wouldn't be surprised.
Chanlin, you're absolutely right. They said there was no end game rating. We've known that for a while, but they have talked about Elder Game.
Elder Game is WildStar.
Yeah,
that's WildStar. It's the
adventure zones. They're calling them adventure zones, and we don't exactly know.
I tend to agree with this in chat. This sentence: having an NDA in an MMO feels kind of like saying our game isn't finished yet.
And that's fine at this point, 2.5 months before. But like, if it comes to like a week or 2 weeks before, you're like, well, what do you got left?
To MMO players, I feel like that's a valid comparison. That an NDA kind of puts the flag up that, hey, what you're watching or playing isn't quite finished yet. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. We're still 2 months from launch, but I can't imagine that flag stays up much longer before it starts causing even people that aren't following it as close as we are, causing concerns. I think there's an MMO base out there that right now is going, I really would like to see some Elder Scrolls stuff before I decide if I want to pre-order this. And the only thing they have to fall back on right now is 2 group gameplay videos, which while they were interesting to us, they're not going to knock anybody's socks off because they weren't those types of videos, and 1 amazing 8-minute cinematic no gameplay movie, which I think we all agree was a fantastic cinematic, right? It was a great cinematic, but it doesn't
amazing.
It doesn't show you anything about the game. Mm-hmm. You're already doing your pre-orders, and there is nothing out there for somebody that doesn't follow everything you drop. For them I'm going to go out on a limb and say if I ever get if Gamebreaker gets so big and we design and develop an MMO, I'm never going to lift the NDA. There you go. I'm saying that.
This is why you'll never get big enough designing an MMO.
Gamers are a-holes. Wait, gamers are a-holes. Let's be honest.
Well, I can tell you right now, though.
Why leave the marketing up to them? Like, why don't I put it into like some 11-year-old who wants to jump on forums and cause a ruckus? There's nothing better to do but then spend 18 hours a day yelling about it. No.
All right. So counter argument. Put your own marketing out there. They haven't done that either.
Well, they just released it. They just released a gameplay dev video in the past week and an 8-minute cinematic. I mean, that's kind of a lot in a week.
Come on. Really? I agree that the cinematic is awesome and it's very cool.
What do you want to put out a video a day?
You aren't making
What's an adventure zone?
$100 buying decision. You aren't making a $100 buying decision based on just a cinematic and one
You did
6-minute group video.
I'm following
this a lot more. I work in this. You and I talk about this and write stuff and
you would have bought it anyway, Bird. You're lying.
For me to
if you didn't have a microphone in front of your mouth, you would have bought it.
Why do I keep coming back? But the
Do you think you can
average
get a refund if
MMO
you don't
player,
like it?
The average Elder Scroll player is still maybe waiting for something here, and they don't have it yet.
That's the point I want to make.
Buying decision on an 8-minute cinematic. Hell, I'm a Final Fantasy Square Enix fanboy, and even I wait for gameplay on them because they make a hell of a cinematic too. But 13 was a terrible game.
That's the point I want to make. Is that we talk about the average Elder Scrolls gamer, like he's just some guy who like gets on the internet for half an hour a day or something, and doesn't watch videos. The average Elder Scrolls gamer, we can talk, and there is something to be said for like the mass versus the really hardcore MMO all the time gamers. But even the average person who plays something like Skyrim, this is a person who goes on Reddit and goes on YouTube and all this other stuff on a fairly regular basis. And if there's nothing out there that he can the real legitimate non-NDA breaking stuff that he can go to, it is kind of a downer. It doesn't promote your product that well. It doesn't give you a whole lot to go on. This isn't a guy who's just occasionally looking at the internet and, oh, there's nothing there, I'm going to move on. He's looking for this stuff at a fairly decent clip and generally not finding anything.
No, I'm looking. I've got my marketing hat on right now.
I'm a terrible comparison because I will buy collector sets for games that I know I am going to hate simply so I can speak intelligently about them. So don't
pull your mic in a little bit, Brian. You're a little low.
You act unintelligently, so you can speak intelligently.
I don't know. I'm talking from a marketing perspective here. I don't know if Elder Scrolls Online really needs the internet chatter yelling in forums about when the NDA lifts. I don't know if they really need that to make sales right now.
To be honest, I hang out in some streams at night, and the chat is full of people talking about Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah, I didn't like the targeting. I don't like the combat. I think the races looked funny. It's what people are talking about.
But that's 99% of the internet who will make comments. Yeah. The comments will be negative because the people who actually like
there's some
the game,
good stuff too, and
they just go on they go on throughout their day and just do like normal shit. And then complainers get on the internet and spend 18 hours yelling about it. People who just liked it, they usually don't say anything. I'm telling you, we run a site here. It kind of works like that. People who enjoy something, like we'll put up a post. Thousands of people will look at it and enjoy it and go on without their day and do something. 10 people will yell and scream about it till the end of time, and then they make 2 or 3 other people think that the sky is falling, when in reality, tens of thousands of people looked at it and they were just completely fine with it and they just moved on. That's why I think that's why NDA
keep the NDA after launch. There you go.
You can never talk about Elder Scrolls Online to anyone.
Ever. It doesn't matter how many months of sub you've paid, ever.
But it's true. It's true of the internet. You go look at comments. Just use Gamebreaker as a litmus test. Use the comments. People go like, "Oh, the sky's falling. Blah blah blah. This place is like done with. You guys are ruining it." If I could tell you how many tens of thousands of people are looking at that single post that 3 people are bitching about, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way. But there are tens of thousands of people just enjoying it and going on with their day. And if you just enjoy something, you're not as inclined to want to sit there and take the time to comment about it. So I would leave the NDA up and just keep all the whiners and bitchy kids quiet.
But I was going to say that in those chat rooms I'm talking about, some people then defend the game and say good things about it. So there's that out there too. And
there was a thing, and I've been kind of vocal about I was touched by the thing.
Oh, excuse me. I don't want to.
But I would.
That's a little private.
But I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I'm one of those people that
very vocal if I was touched by the thing.
But the truth is, most people wouldn't. Most people aren't going to really defend it and talk positivity. So I think they should keep it to the beta forums. Just keep it in the beta forums for now. Now, the truth is, if in the beta forums there are legitimate things wrong with the game that are being told, and this is something I don't know, but if and this has happened in other MMOs where gamers have been giving super constructive feedback to developers in betas, giving them this is broken, this is not working, this is going to have a long-term effect. If that stuff is happening and they're not listening, well, then we've got a problem, right? But that's a problem.
We've got a Final Fantasy version 1, which is exactly what was happening.
Right, but that's the forum where that stuff should be bitched about.
But they've been working on this game for 10 years. They can't change any of that stuff.
All right,
Gary was touched by the thing.
Touched by the thing. Do we still do titles on these episodes? Because that's definitely what it has to be.
Might be. I don't know. We got anything else to talk about?
Or something else on the list.
Nah, that's it.
Well, let me talk about Audible real quick. We got Audible. Love Audible. Can't leave an episode of TWIMMO without talking about Audible. If you guys have not checked out Audible, please go over to audible.com/gamebreaker, sign up, make an account, support Gamebreaker by supporting Audible. If you do not have an account, that's the URL you want to use. Download the app, put it on your iOS or your Android device. I'm going to hook you up with a free 30-day trial to the service and a free book of your choice. What do I got up here? I got the World of Warcraft books up. Even if you're not a WoW fan, these books are fantastic. Even if you're not playing World of Warcraft, the books are really, really good. Really good. Storm Rage is awesome. I read this in paperback. I haven't listened to this one yet. I'm going to listen to this one, though. Check it out. It could be yours free just by going to audible.com/gamebreaker. There it is. There's the URL. Do it. Go. And check it out today, audible.com/gamebreaker. Let's see.
It's not like any of this matters because you're going to be, Smedley's called you home, Gary.
So,
He said, come on home, Gary. Come on.
You guys want to talk about that? You want to talk about the Star Wars Galaxy stuff?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
It is.
What is it? They can't change it, Winter. They can't change it.
Well, it's exactly the same, just without the Star Wars. You're gonna have laser swords and Wookahs, giant hairy things called Wookahs.
So the story is, if you guys didn't see it, really quick, in a Reddit AMAA, Ask Me Almost Anything with John Smedley, the CEO of Sony Online Entertainment, he dropped a bomb saying that they were going to be announced. There's an unannounced MMO that SOE is working on, and basically saying that they weren't releasing any sort of title or anything like that, but Star Wars Galaxies veterans would finally have a place to come home. The internet blew up. Everybody went crazy. And everybody started speculating. We have found out that it is not a Star Wars game. It is not the Star Wars IP. So obviously it's going to be sci-fi, but no Star Wars.
Are you sure it'd be sci-fi?
Actually, not sure if it'd be sci-fi. We don't know because
now
now the rumors are. So this is the other thing. So this is like he's turning it. Smed's like he's like building an ARG out of like his marketing. It's amazing. Because now he's telling people, that the answers are out there. Like there's information on the internet about this game. You just have to know where to look for it. So immediately everybody starts like looking at patents and trademarks and all that. Blah. So what's the H1Z1? I believe
H1Z1, which was probably zombie related.
Sounds
take
very
on
zombie
the H1N1 virus.
It's got to be sci-fi though, right? Come on, you Star Wars players
I think it does, yeah.
do not want to play a zombie game. Star Wars players, like the systems weren't the only thing that made that game what it was. It's got to be sci-fi. You're not convinced, Jason? You think it could be something else?
I think it could be. I think you take the general mechanics of it, of managing. I didn't play Star Wars Galaxies, but of managing your economy and doing trade and so on. A little like what's it called? Maybe a little like what Arcade has done or something like that. But
you think Star Wars Galaxies players want non-sci-fi? Like that seems so weird to me.
Well, what did they like about the game? Was it the Star Wars or was it the sandboxiness?
Both.
Obviously, the two.
The fact that it was Star Wars
obviously you can't have both.
Quite big.
Then let me ask you this, Gary. If instead of being a sci-fi, would you play the Star Wars Galaxies equivalent set in a fantasy world?
I'd play the Star Wars Galaxy version of any fucking thing out there.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. That's exactly the thing. He knows that you're that type of person.
But I don't think the average consumer
only play that now.
The average consumer doesn't play Star Wars Galaxies, period.
Star Wars Galaxies. He didn't play Star Wars Galaxies because of the system, though. The systems, though.
Right.
He would play
I played it because I initially played it because it was Star Wars.
See, that's the thing. Right. That's the thing. It got you in with Star Wars, but you stayed because of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Old Republic was also Star Wars, but you didn't stay because you didn't like it. So
right now, the other big rumor floating around now, which makes a lot of sense, is that Sony are doing some sort of a deal with the company. I don't remember the name of the development team, but they're making the game The Repopulation, which they are being quite open, saying, "Hey, it's sci-fi. It looks like from a systems design standpoint, it's like Star Wars Galaxies to a T." Mixed with a little bit of Ultima Online and some other things, but it definitely goes back to that style of thing. That'd probably be a perfect marriage because it seems like that's exactly what they're doing. So,
yeah, and that's above and beyond technologies. Obviously, neither company has actually said anything.
Yeah,
so that's pure 100% speculation, but totally fits with what we think the game would potentially be, and totally fits with Smedley saying, hey man, all the information's out there. People just gotta find it.
And I think for especially for old folks like me who played Star Wars Galaxies, the repopulation is the one I think a lot of players who do know what this is. I know a lot of people out there going like, I've never even heard this. I know because nobody. It's a really small indie development team. We haven't covered it much. They just did a Kickstarter. There's actually 6 days left on the Kickstarter. It looks like. Wow, have they really only raised that much? Is that real? Okay, so they have not. All right, so they're not there yet. So they're looking to raise, looks like $250,000, and they're at $183,000. So actually, a good time to pimp this for them then. So check it out if you want. I mean, if you're looking for more information on this game, it's really interesting. I mean, look, they even put it right here: a sci-fi based MMORPG which provides many of the same sandbox oriented features seen in Star Wars Galaxies and Ultima Online. Like there's no question about it. This is what they're looking to create.
And it's also free to play, which fits in with SOE's motif.
Yeah, I think it's what's really wild about this though, Gary, is like you and I have been following this for quite a while.
Yeah.
The repopulation, and we were just stunned putting articles up on free to play TV, just like how little traction it had, right? Like nobody.
I mean, it's
watching
hard,
this.
but it's hard for these companies to get traction. I mean, these guys are down in the trenches making this game with like no money. They don't have money for publicity and marketing and media and all this stuff. They're down there just like coding away and making this thing. So
and like what I said is that the average person isn't into a sci-fi sandbox. It's just it's got a limited appeal.
It's a niche. That's for sure. Let's see what this video looks like. I mean, it's a really interesting. Like I said, they look like a lot of the systems on paper look like they've really kind of nailed what Star Wars Galaxies was. So this would be a perfect marriage for SOE. I could see this definitely being what they're doing. I mean, that almost looks like just a more modern SWG to a T.
Yep.
Like it's pretty much could
speeder
be.
bike.
Yeah, there's Tatooine.
Mos Eisley.
Yeah. Here's your player housing.
I think like in the
place
next month
anything
or so,
anywhere.
If you see the Kickstarter disappear, you'll know what's up. It's like all of a sudden their Kickstarter just goes away because we have a publisher now.
Well, let's see if let's see if we can help these guys out. I mean, they're trying to raise $250,000. They're at 183. So
yeah, even if this isn't Smed's thing, I want to play this.
And there's even there's a show in there. There's even the entertainer class. SWG people remember that. I can never understand why people play that class, but people literally used to stand in cantinas and dance for money. That was the class. That's what you did. You danced and you buffed people. So before we'd go out on like big like raids and stuff, we'd go in and get buffed by the dancer. So
get buffed.
Get buffed. There's tons of information on here. You can get lost. I got to say one thing about these guys. They may not, the word may not really be out there that much, and you may never have heard of this game, but you could spend a ridiculous amount of time on their website just reading all this stuff because there is a ton of info. It's the repopulation.com. I mean, they've got like, beastry, the combat system. There's pages on just everything. Definitely not skimped on the amount of reading you can do. Look at this. The targeting systems, the cover, fittings, momentum, like they've got it all mapped out. So you could spend hours checking this game out.
Thank you,
Check it out.
I couldn't get there to cover this. I thought this was fully funded. This is their second Kickstarter to push additional stuff in there. The first one was funded. I could have sworn it was. Thank you for looking it up, Chad. So yeah, first one is funded. This one is all kinds of extra stuff they're trying to put into it now.
It'd really be nice to see if somebody like SOE got behind this, because I think it's tough for these smaller MMO developers. So it'd be nice to get some AAA studio behind them to kind of help them push them over the edge. Because I'm sure there's a lot of things that SOE could help with, especially when the game is done and it comes to marketing and things like that. That's something these guys are really going to need.
Which you don't want to start until you're just about ready to launch because you don't want to break the NDA.
Yeah, don't ever lift the NDA. Don't, especially on the repo. Just don't do it. That's the new thing. Just stop doing it. Just stop lifting it. We'll get used to it. Gamers will get used to it.
No, that.
Jason NDA Winter.
Find me at Winter NDA Informal.
Follow me at Winter Informal on the Twitter, right here on TWIMMO on Fridays. Mike Byrne, follow me on the Twitter at MagicMan1. What else are you on? Like everything.
Other shows. Come and watch.
Other shows. Lots of other shows. Follow him on Twitter, Matchman. Check out our new show, Game Breaker. Myself, Pat Crane, Coltrane. Last night we went live with Mike Byrne. It's a fun show. Word. Called Game Breaker. Check it out. And have a great week. We'll see you next week.